You know, 71% of Americans want a strong third-party option, and we delivered it in terms of ballot access, but they're suing us. The DNC online PACs are suing us to get us off the ballots right now. These are frivolous lawsuits.
In fact, next time what we'll do, instead of North Carolina, we'll have our next little gathering in Venezuela, because it will be much safer than being in our country. If these people win, you're not going to have any meetings, you're not going to have anything. There'll be chaos in our country.
We don't criticize, and this is where the media is dishonest here, we don't criticize Tim Walz for his years of service in the National Guard. We condemn him for lying about that service for political gain. It's disgraceful, and nobody should tolerate it.
RFK Jr. going to be addressing the nation this Friday. Some people saying that he might be endorsing Trump. Very curious. You know where he's going to be making this announcement? In Phoenix, Arizona. Do you know where Donald Trump is going to be on Friday? Phoenix, Arizona. More specifically, Glendale, having a rally out there. And the question is going to be whether RFK shows up and makes an endorsement, perhaps, at that rally in this great state of Arizona. So he says here from Kennedy 24 that he's going to be addressing the nation. You can see 11 Pacific time is going to be the time. Independent presidential candidate will be making the announcement, and I do believe he's going to be doing that from Arizona, which is very curious. Now, here's more on the story. RFK is going to be addressing the nation. CNN and others are hinting here that there will be an endorsement, and endorse President Trump is what CNN is reporting. The speech will come days after his running mate, Nicole Shanahan, who we'll listen to next, said in a podcast that the campaign is considering to join forces with Trump. Let's go, baby. Trump is holding a rally in Arizona on Friday evening. The Republican nominee on Tuesday expressed openness to Kennedy playing a role. He said, he's a brilliant guy. He's a very smart guy. I've known him for a long time. Trump told Kristen Holmes. Now, the speech on Friday will be Kennedy's first campaign public event since early July. Comes as Kennedy struggling in the polls. Kennedy and Trump have grown warmer towards each other, but in July they spoke on a phone. Don't know what came of that, but now in Arizona, where Friday's event is going to take place, Kennedy's popularity could prove critical to a state that was decided by less than 11,000 fake votes in the 2020 presidential election. A New York Times Siena College poll of registered voters said that Harris is slightly ousting Trump in Arizona. We'll see. So a spokesman at the Arizona Secretary of State's office confirmed that Kennedy is qualified for the ballot in the state, as he has in 21 other states. And so we'll see what that looks like. Very excited about that. I think it would be a great pickup. I think Trump would do very well to bring him into the fold. I don't know exactly at what level. I don't know if we want him at the Attorney General, for example, but Health and Human Services has a nice little ring to it. Little FDA, CDC business somewhere in that wheelhouse. Feels pretty good. So we'll keep our eye on it. Now, there's been more reaction from Nicole Shanahan. She was out and explaining what the Democrats have done to their campaign, and it's been just brutal. She was also on the Impact Theory podcast with Tom Bilyeu over on YouTube and elsewhere, explaining that they have saboteurs that have been inserted into their operations. They've got multiple lawsuits going on, and it sounds like things are pretty bad, but really only like 1/10 of what Trump, maybe even less than that, of what Trump has had to suffer with multiple indictments, raids, criminal charges. Hopefully that doesn't happen to them next. But here is what she said about this, saying from her own X account, says, Trump has had 6 court battles to fight during this election, while we have 9 and counting across the country. And I'm not sure which one she's counting, but we covered 6 at least. By bringing these suits against political opponents, the Democrats bankrupt the underpinnings of democracy. What the Democrats consider common course to win elections is the kind of normalcy that leads to famine, sickness, and civil war. The country is ready for an administration that represents unity. Maybe they can come and unify with Trump. And there's something about her now. It seems like something has clicked in her mind and in Kennedy's mind, like they're really sick and tired of the lying, cheating Democrats. That's just who they are. Obama won his election by throwing people off the ballots. Okay, they tried to make up fake stories about the Steele dossier with Trump in 2016, Hillary Clinton. Then once he won, they made up more stories like they're just cheaters. This year, they tried to throw him off the ballot. It's like we got that case. We've got 2 ballot cases. We got multiple ballot cases that Trump handled. There's 6 ballot cases, at least, right, that he was battling as that was happening. So anyways, the point is, not to mention 4 criminal cases, the Bergdorf case, defamation case, the list goes on and on. It's been a full-on assault, and I don't doubt her for a minute that they're feeling the heat too, because the Democrats are ruthless.
I have to say there's only one party that has obstructed a fair election for us, and unfortunately it was the Democratic Party. They've done everything they can, including creating PACs to to prevent us from being able to have ballot access.
Yeah, it's interesting because you were saying that you could stay in and run the risk of Kamala Harris win, or you could walk and you could join forces with Donald Trump. When you say join forces, Nicole, what do you mean specifically?
Well, this idea of a unity party, an idea of us coming around these principles of fighting for liberty in this country, fighting for our children's health. We have the worst chronic health crisis in the world right now. Over 50% of children are diagnosed with some chronic disease. This is unconscionable.
Yeah.
And we are willing to work with anyone who is sincere in their endeavor to fix and address this issue.
Do you believe the Trump campaign and Trump himself is sincere? Do you see a home? You talk about this as being Bobby's decision for RFK Jr. in the Trump administration, Health and Human Services, something to that extent.
I would fully support it. I would fully support a strong partnership dedicated to this issue. A lot of, people comment that in his first term, he didn't accomplish many of the things that mothers really were hoping he would do, made some big mistakes around the pandemic. However, I think that he is sincere.
Yeah.
I do.
I think it's interesting because the National Review today kind of agrees with you. It's saying that if you, in fact, you pulled out of the race, that it would be more beneficial to the Trump campaign than the Harris campaign. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that it's a tight race right now. I wish that we had had a chance to debate, that we had fair representation in the polls. I wish we had a chance to be on stage, because had we, likely would have won this election. 71% of Americans want a strong third-party option, and we delivered it in terms of ballot access, but they're suing us. The DNC online PACs are suing us to get us off the ballots right now. These are frivolous lawsuits. We've had some of the best people involved in our ballot petitions, some of the most precise, signature packages ever submitted to any of the Secretary of States. We've overcome so much to get to this point. So to even be contemplating this is tough. It's a really hard decision, and we don't come to this moment lightly. We come to this moment because in every single decision we make, first and foremost, we want to make sure that we are representing the best interest of health and wellness of young people, children, and future generations.
All right, so we're happy to have RFK and Nicole Shanahan on the Trump train, baby, because I think they have also been victimized by the Democrats. That's just who the Democrats are, man. They cheat. They try to throw you off the ballot. They sue you into oblivion. They make up fake claims. I mean, goodness, we've seen it, so we can empathize with that. But it would be nice for them to join forces with Trump. I don't exactly know what position they would be in, but we're hopeful that on Friday there is a nice, ringing, thorough endorsement from the Kennedy camp over onto President Trump. Now, he was out today. You can see he's back outside making the rounds, talking some campaign stuff, and he's surrounded by bulletproof glass now. Secret Service is like, all right, this is probably a good idea since we don't know how to climb on sloped roofs. But here is what Trump said. He was talking about Kamala, saying, look, if she wins the presidency, we're in big trouble, baby.
Stairs all over the place. He'd finish his speech and look around. Where am I? His speeches lasted. The nice part, it was good in the hot sun because they lasted for about 2 minutes and you could go home. Yeah. But nobody would come anyway. But we can't let her. She's much worse than him, actually, because she's actually more radical. He never believed it. He just did it for votes. I don't know why you'd get votes by having open borders. She wants open borders. If she became president in 4 years, you'd have 60 to 70 million people from all over the world. And it's not just South America. And remember, they're releasing them from their jails and their prisons. They're coming out of jails and prisons and mental institutions and insane asylums. Then we have hundreds and probably thousands of terrorists that have come into our country. We probably have a few here. Welcome. But we probably have a few here. And she's all for it. And now she's saying, and you see what she's saying, well, the wall was largely built. We were adding space onto the wall. We built hundreds of miles of wall. I actually took it because Congress gave us a hard time and the Democrats were brutal. We had 11 lawsuits and we won all 11, but I took it out of the military. I called it an invasion of our country. It was an invasion. And we built hundreds of miles of wall. And then I was going to do 200 extra. We ordered it. It was there. And we had that rotten, horrible election where we did much better than we did the first time. And bad things happened. And all of a sudden, I hear that they want to have open borders. And I thought they were kidding. Who the hell wants open borders?
They do.
And then they said, we'll give you health care. Now they're saying all about how they're getting tough in the borders and how they were tough, except they have a couple of problems. Do you know that we flew in 1 million people, airplanes, over the top of the border, beautiful airplanes. They're flying them in. If you want to stop people, you're not flying them in on airplanes. pipelines and many other things. No, they wanted open borders, and we have a country that's loaded up with many, many criminals right now of the worst. They emptied their jails. They emptied their jails and prisons. They emptied their mental institutions into our country, largely. Now, they're continuing to do it. But if you look at many of these countries that we're talking about, frankly, who can blame them? They're dropping their prisoners into the United States of America. They're dropping all of these people into the United States, including their mental institution people. Any terrorists they have, they're dropping them into the United States. We're taking hundreds of thousands of people that were in jail for murder. You take a look at Venezuela, their jails are half. And I'm surprised half because, frankly, I would have worked faster than that. If I were running it, I would have had all of them out of there by now. They go to Caracas, they take all their gang members, all of their killers, their murderers, their drug dealers. They take them and they're putting them into the United States, and their crime is down 72%. In fact, next time what we'll do, instead of North Carolina, we'll have our next little gathering in Venezuela because it will be much safer than being in our country. If these people win, you're not going to have any meetings, you're not going to have anything. There'll be chaos in our country.
That's what they want. That's why they are opening the borders like that, so they can wreck the middle class, get a bunch of voters, and the rich will get richer as the rest of us suffer. So that was Trump. We have a couple other clips. J.D. Vance was also out there today, and he was talking about Tim Walz and his stolen valor. Here's J.D.
Now, Kamala Harris, she gets really mad when I bring up the stolen valor of her running mate, but let me tell you why it matters. Every single person here understands why this matters. Here's the record on Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. He dropped out of the military and allowed his unit to go to Iraq without him. And he knew they were going to Iraq. He lied about it, but he knew they were going to Iraq. Even his chaplain called him a coward. And those of you who served in the military know the chaplain is the nicest person in the unit. If the chaplain is calling you a coward, you must have really screwed up. He claimed to carry a weapon in war.
Nope.
We asked him, Tim, what war have you ever been in? And the answer is he's never been to a single war. He lied about it. He lied about his rank, and he stood in silence as Nancy Pelosi and a lot of journalists praised him for his service on an imaginary battlefield instead of correcting the record. What won't stolen valor Tim Walz fib about? In fact,
Nothing.
I believe at his next speech, he's probably going to say he survived an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. I think that's what Tim Walz is going to claim next time. Now, look, we don't criticize, and this is where the media is dishonest here. We don't criticize Tim Walz for his years of service in the National Guard. We condemn him for lying about that service for political gain. It's disgraceful, and nobody should tolerate it.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's IVF, his tacos. He was also lying about text messages. We also heard about that. He said that he was texting all night long about the Inflation Reduction Act or whatever it was. And turns out he wasn't, because journalists said, can we have your text messages, since there's open record laws there in your state that we can utilize to get those? And they said, no, we don't actually have those at all. So they just lie constantly because that's who they are and what they do. Now, this was another interesting clip. Trump was out there, as you see, behind the bulletproof glass, and something happened. Somebody got a little bit woozy, maybe had a little faint.
A doctor, please.
We need a doctor, please.
It is very hot here. I noticed. It's very hot. And a lot of the people waited for days to get here, so I understand it. Take your time, doctor. Take your time. Thank you.
Should Trump go check it out? Because he should stay in that protective bubble, right? So he doesn't get shot in the head again. But maybe he will go take a look. Oh, yeah. And the Secret Service has a heart attack. Get someone on the roofs. Check the roofs. Look everywhere. Anybody see any ladders? Oh, man, what a brave hero Trump is. Let's go check her out. Make sure he's all right. Give him a nice hug. Fight, fight, fight. Secret Service is like, get back in there, sir. Must go faster.
Thank you very much. You know, they come 2 days, 3 days early, and it's a lot of stress. We lose them. The only ones we don't lose are front row Joes. I don't know what they have going. They have something going here, Governor. Thank you very much. Thanks, Doctor.
All good. Back in business, baby. So there's Trump just moseying on outside of the protective force field because he's not even scared of bullets. Get out of here. That's our president, baby.